9 out of the past 11 years in Bitcoin history has ended with an end of year rally. The only time we haven't had an end of year rally was when we were coming off of a bear market, right? Like in 2015 and over here in 2018. Those were the only 2 years where we didn't have an end of year rally. Every other year in Bitcoin history had an end of year rally. And one of the main indicators that may lead us into that final end of year pump is right here, the US dollar index finding a top. Right, so look out for a possible reversal in the US dollar index, and that's when I think the mania phase might begin. Recently, I've noticed some concern for stocks and Bitcoin because the US dollar index has been trending upward over the past month. People are wondering if this is going to lead to a drop in asset prices. Moving over to the S&P chart for the past 1 month, well, this has hardly been the case. The S&P has also been trending up with the US dollar index, and also Bitcoin has generally been trending up for the past few months as well. So then I went back in time and I wanted to see what was the US dollar index doing in November of 2017 during the 2017 bull run. Well, what's interesting is that the US dollar index, which is blue, the S&P 500, which is orange, and the candles, which is Bitcoin, they were all trending up from September through October into November. They were all trending up together. And it was only until the blue DXY broke its trend and started to see a breakdown. That's when we got that epic final mania phase for crypto and the stock market. Now, before we get further into the US dollar index signal that could lead us into a major end of year pump to much higher prices, before we get into all of that, I just want to talk about the short term here for Bitcoin. This is the daily chart. We have a really nice upward sloping channel that we are currently maintaining, actually. And we are still above the upward sloping trend line. We could come down as low as 53,500, 53,000 or so and still be in a good constructive market structure, right? So none of the short-term stuff concerns me at all. And also, I just want to mention that, what do you want to see in a bull market? You want to see previous resistance become, boom, new support, just like it did right there in October, right? Now, this previous resistance, what do we want to see? We want to see it become new support right here. Right? So we can still come down to 53, 53 and a half and bounce, and everything would still be good to go, right? Just wanted to get that out of the way. Now let's move back to the DXY final pump signal that could lead us to a 6-figure Bitcoin going into next year. Let's talk about that, right? So I posted this on Twitter today. I said in 2017, the US dollar index, stocks, and Bitcoin all went up together. And then I said, since Bitcoin formed its $30,000 bottom, the DXY has been pumping. So we've been going up alongside the DXY, just like the 2017 chart here leading into December. And I said, if we get a reversal in the US dollar index, then we may see a massive move up, just like November, December 2017. Because once the US dollar index started to see that break down, this blue line, stocks and crypto went to the moon. And now if you move over to the current period, this is currently what's happening, right? We see Bitcoin, stock market, and US dollar index all going up at the same time. So what I'm waiting for here, if we end up seeing the DXY, the blue line there, if we end up seeing the DXY get a reversal in the near term, pull back and break this trend line, this is when I think the final major pump to 6-figure Bitcoin will take place. Now, taking a look at the US dollar index from a longer term perspective, I have the RSI pulled up here. This is the peak of the recent high in the 2020 COVID crash, right? This area right there. This is the 2020 COVID crash. We were on a major downtrend all the way until June when we bottomed out. Now we've been on a major rally. Stocks are up, crypto's up, and the US dollar's up, right? So everything is up recently. What I do see here from that COVID high to this current area, which could potentially be a lower high in this range, looking at historic resistance, this would be, if we do find any sort of rejection in this area, this would be possibly hidden bearish divergence. If we end up getting a lower high for the US dollar index with a higher high on the weekly RSI, then that would be giving us hidden bearish divergence and a possible pullback. And that is what could set off the final major mania phase for stocks and crypto. And of course, with all the money printing and the new $1 trillion infrastructure package and all the spending that's going on, we will probably see, I would think, a slowdown in the US dollar index. We have been moving up quite significantly. But once again, the major signal here would be a breakdown for the US dollar index. And I think that it is possibly coming. I think it's possibly on the horizon here. And then that's what will send us into that frenzy, that final mania phase for the crypto market. All the on-chain metrics, as discussed in my last video, are all very bullish. Long-term holders and whales are actually looking at this as low prices, right? And they're going to be looking to scale out as we move into an area of strength. They'll be looking to sell somewhere at the 6-figure level. And also something else to keep in mind is that 9 out of the past 11 years in Bitcoin history has ended with an end of year rally. The only time we haven't had an end of year rally was when we were coming off of a bear market, right? Like in 2015. And over here in 2018. Those were the only 2 years where we didn't have an end of year rally. Every other year in Bitcoin history had an end of year rally. And I believe this has a lot to do with the correlation to the stock market. The S&P 500 seasonality chart shows that over the past 20 years, all the aggregated data shows an end of year rally is the most common outcome as well for the stock market. You know, the consumer confidence leading into the holiday season, you know, companies looking to have good earnings reports and all that kind of stuff. The end of year pump is a very common thing. And I do think it's coming for Bitcoin as well. And one of the main indicators that may lead us into that final end of year pump is right here, the US dollar index finding a top, right? So look out for a possible reversal in the US dollar index. And that's when I think the mania phase might begin. So keep your eye on the US dollar index for the possible top. And that's really it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed, hit the like button, subscribe to this channel if you found it useful, and join the Patreon if you want to support this channel. And I'll see you all in the next video.